Senator Harper yesterday. Obviously, our discussion went long with 450, but I know that we've got an important measure coming over from the Senate, and as this committee has discussed many times, one of the most important things that we can do, not only as our committee, but as hunters and fishermen, is make sure that the recruitment, and we've got future hunters and fishermen coming in. That's the future of what we've got. We've got to pass along the heritage and the tradition that we have, and you know, as computers and television and become more prevalent. I even catch my son watching these things. He's starting to know how to work an iPhone better than I can, but we got to keep getting the young folks out and the next generation out, and especially in a sense where a lot of us don't live as close to the farm or have a tie back to rural Georgia or the farm anymore. It's very important. So this is a very important measure. And with that, Senator Harper, if you'll get up and present a very, very important measure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm not sure, and Mr. Chairman, this is my fault, because I do know that I didn't give you both 0102s. I gave you 0102s to a version you and I discussed, and I was going to leave it up to you and I just realized that because it's still in my folder.
I think what we're going to discuss today, Senator, is the bill that was passed
Yeah,
out of the
Senate. But
is that the LC 440730?
that is what passed the Senate, but there is another version that we had to.
Let's speak to the original bill, and then we'll look at, because I haven't seen the
I can explain what it does.
The sub,
So,
but
the sub and the original bill are no different, and the only difference is a clarification. We found the issue after we passed it out of the Senate, and it clarifies the intent of the underlying bill. Anyway, getting to that, getting off of the comments that you just made, that is exactly what we're here to do. I think in Georgia, we want to make sure that we continue to protect our hunting and fishing rights in our state, and the way we do that is to encourage individuals to participate in hunting and fishing in our state. So Senate Bill 332 is an effort in which to encourage that, and making sure that individuals continue to have a lifelong passion for the sports that I believe we all care about, each of us individually. You'll see basically what Senate Bill 332 does is it creates an outdoor passport program, and it creates an outdoor mentee, it creates an outdoor mentor. And those are the defined definitions you'll see under subsection A. And it goes on to talk about how the program will be implemented. And this is actually a program that kind of goes along in the line of what the Department of Natural Resources is currently doing under their R3 initiative. It's a great way to complement what our department is already doing, while at the same time continuing to encourage individuals the ability to participate. So what it does is it creates a passport that allows an individual who's not held a hunting or fishing license in this state the opportunity to get that passport and have an ability to hunt or fish for an entire year for a reduced cost or a zero cost license, and that's up to the DNR. But our intent behind this is to have it at a level to where it encourages these individuals to participate, and they can be assigned a mentor to help them in that effort. The department will then be tasked with the task of approving mentors under the department, and they can go through a program to do that, and they'll tie those mentors to these mentees and encouraging them to hunt and fish in our state. So that's what the premise of the main gist of the underlying language does. And it's supported by the National Shooting Sports Foundation. It's supported by QDMA. It's supported by, all the Realtree Outdoors actually come and spoke in our Senate committee meeting in support of the bill. There are a number of entities that support it. What I brought up earlier, where we found what we considered an issue, was under the original bill. It says that an outdoor mentee is a person who has never had a hunting or fishing license. The problem that we found in that was that meant if you had a hunting license but you've never been a fisherman in our state, that you couldn't participate in the outdoor passport program for fishing purposes. Or if you've had a fishing license in our state, the way it reads under the language as passed the Senate, that you couldn't get an outdoor passport for the purpose of hunting. And my apologies again, Mr. Chairman, that is completely my fault. I know I briefly mentioned to you that there was a fix that we needed to do, and I neglected to bring you the language, and that's on me. I completely take the blame for that. But the language that we had come up with working with Legislative Counsel to fix that issue says that an outdoor mentee has never been issued both a hunting and fishing license in this state. So if you've been issued one or the other, you can still get an outdoor passport for the purposes of being a hunter or for the purposes of being a fisherman. And if you've ever been issued an outdoor passport, it clarifies you can't be get another outdoor passport again. That's the changes in the substitute. That's the only thing that we changed, and we had to add in some language according to Legislative Counsel in that section 2 to make sure that it's clear that in our efforts in making sure that how this is going to apply to make sure that these individuals can participate in the program. The only other thing that is in the bill that did pass the Senate, you'll see in the additional section in regards to a non-resident youth sportsman license. Under current law, a non-resident hunter has to pay a license fee to hunt in our state of, is it $350? Isn't that correct? $335. So if you're a non-resident and you come to Georgia, you have to pay $335 to hunt in our state. A lot of times what we have found in our state is we have individuals who have children, grandchildren that may live just across the border in Florida or Alabama or South Carolina, and they come home to Grandma and Grandpa's house during Thanksgiving and Christmas to enjoy spending time at the grandparents' house, and what this is intended to do is to help in that effort, to where if you're an individual who's 15 years or younger, you can get a $50 permit instead of paying the whole $335. And this is another effort to encourage that youth sporting in our state, and continuing to encourage that, because a lot of these families in our state that have been longtime residents of our state want to carry on that tradition with their children and their grandchildren, even if they live out of state. And I think this is one way to encourage it. Even if they never buy a Georgia hunting license in their adult years, we hope that they'll buy a hunting license in whatever state in which they reside, but knowing that we've done something to encourage and instill in them the love for the outdoors and the love for hunting and fishing. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's the bill. That's the explanation of the bill. And I will, because I didn't get you the changes, and I'm subject to your discretion, and I apologize for that again. That is completely my fault. That is on me. I should have dropped that off to you last week, and I didn't. But but those are the underlying measures.
Real quick, a couple of questions, and then we'll open up questions for the committee. First of all, thank you. Again, I can't stress enough the mission that we all ought to be on to make sure that we're recruiting the next generation of hunters and fishermen. And I really do appreciate this measure. A couple of questions that come to mind, and I guess this comes up, after we went through the license, redoing our license fee bill a couple, what was that, last year or the year before? Last year. Oh, time flies. Real quick, one of the things that I think the purpose of this is to grab somebody who's never hunted before. My question is, does that apply to father-son, father-daughter, or is that grabbing somebody outside of a household that is brought up with hunting and fishing? And the reason I ask that is I know that we had put in the prior, in our bill, the optional youth sportsman's license for those 12 through 15, which gave those youth that, when they took that hunter safety certificate, man, they could get that youth license and feel like they're participating, give that incentive. I guess my question is, this is going to undo that part? Are we looking to from a mentor point of view, are we looking to get somebody outside of the family? Or are we going to have, a dad come in with the son and say, look, I'm going to do this mentor thing? Is that really what we're doing, or is that going to encompass?
I think to answer your question, I would argue both. I think in some instances, and in some cases, you can take my family, for instance. I have two younger brothers. One loves to hunt and fish as much as I do, if not more, and another enjoys it, but he's not as adamant about it as we are. And I think even in families where across our state where you have families that are adamant about doing it, there's sometimes where their sons or their daughters or their grandsons or their granddaughters may not have that same passion. And I think even for those individuals, and even individuals that are outside of that atmosphere that have never participated or never had that family backing for that, I would argue that it's an opportunity to go after both of those individuals to make sure that they have at least 1 year's opportunity to experience what it's like to participate in the outdoors in our state. But that would be my position in regards to that question.
But I guess a follow-up, and this may help clarify it. I just want to make sure with our funding and what we did last year, because again, we're trying to get everybody to realize that when you buy that license, that's a great thing.
That's right.
We're also able to enjoy the PR and DJ dollars that are coming back from the feds that you're out there spending on that rifle ammunition, shotgun ammunition, fishing equipment, etc. So the license is at a reduced cost, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, and this may be a question for
the outdoor passport would be at a reduced cost.
The passport. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I'm saying that right. The passport would be at a reduced cost. So I assume, and I guess my question is to make sure that we're at least meeting whatever that minimum is that we need, so that those folks can get counted. We can count those under the PR, and I can't remember.
And that would be at the discretion of the department.
Yeah, we've looked at this and we didn't see any issues.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's it, because again,
and I don't have any, and I hope there's no misinterpretation in me bringing this bill forward at trying to undermine that effort, because there is not.
That's what we're
and that's the reason I tried to leave the departmental discretion to give them the ability to make sure that that's the case in going forward, that we can address it that way. And just to clarify too, on the mentor side, if individuals agree to participate in the mentor program as a mentor, the department has the discretion, if they so choose, to reduce their license rate because of their willingness to be a mentor in our state. So I just want to be upfront about that. That's also in here too. That way, the department to help encourage those individuals to participate if they so choose. But that's departmental discretion also.
And then my last question, we'll open up for committee questions. My last question is to make sure, just to verify, I assume it is, that the non-resident youth sportsman's license for 15 years of age and under, again, it's a non-resident youth sportsman's license, but it ends at age 15.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There's no. It would be for individuals who are of the age of 15 and younger, and that's it, for nobody else.
And thus expires
And
after.
it-
When they hit
yes.
16, then
Yeah,
they're
that
gonna-
wouldn't apply anymore.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions, committee?
Mr. Chairman, are we going to adopt the substitute that we haven't seen?
And that's my fault.
And if
I
so,
apologize.
I too would
would
like to
like-
make a motion to.
No. Let's discuss the bill right now.
Okay.
I'd like to, we got some other business, we got some other things I'm gonna try to call a committee meeting for tomorrow to do. So I want an opportunity to look through the sub a little bit. But let's talk about the underlying bill or it, but I'm gonna hold
Okay.
off, okay? So any questions on the substitute?
The only question I had is if we're considering the substitute, I'd like to make a motion to print so that we can read it.
Well, that is one good question for the committee. That may be actually, think about that. No, well, look, let's discuss it. I think,
If we can track the changes in the original, then.
well, I think, first of all, I don't want somebody to vote on something they hadn't seen, okay? I don't think that's, we don't do that in any committee, and I
don't do it in mine, Mr. Chairman. And that's,
so-
like I said, that's
yeah.
my fault.
Yeah, so what we'll do is, but we've talked about the bill, and you've got the underlying bill in here, and then, we will, let's talk about the underlying bill. We can have discussion on it and Representative Tarvin.
I know that no one would misuse this, but on the mentor side, what if somebody signed up to be a mentor and they got a reduced license or whatever, and they never mentored anybody? Do you have to actually mentor somebody or a number of people to keep getting a reduced license?
Yes, the intention of this would be to do that. That is correct. But again, we're leaving that discretionary part to the department to make sure that they enforce that provision, because they're the ones that would be issuing that reduced cost license. So therefore, they would be the ones who have the enforcement authority to enforce the fact that they are in fact mentoring an individual. And I would think that they would set it up in such a way that said mentor does not receive such reduction until they're in a mentor-mentee
I think
companion.
I think you're correct.
So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
To my friend from the coast who can't be doing any better, the greatest day of your life, isn't it?
Best day of my life, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, and I see some people here from the department. Yeah, that's a good question Representative Tarvin raised. How difficult would it be to be able to verify? It looks like it could get a little cumbersome. Maybe it wouldn't, but because, believe it or not, we run into that problem in the Youth Challenge program. I'll mentor. They mentor for a month, 2 months, and they drop off. And that's part of what we're required to keep a kid on the straight. So I just want to make sure that we put in place, if we're going to say that's a requirement, I'd like to see it monitored where they would be able to make sure they enforce it. Because there are a lot of people out here who take advantage of the reduced rate by saying I'll mentor.
I agree. And I'd be happy to ask a representative of the department to address that specifically. But
Of course.
again, I think we give the discretionary
Of course.
that we give that discretion and that ability to the department to design and enforce this in the way that they feel like is best enabling for them to be able to police it, while at the same time offering this program to individuals throughout our state. And I believe they have that leeway in this, because we've had a number of discussions about mentors, and I'll bring it up because it's been talked about, mentors who may have a criminal record or a criminal history, that the department will have that discretion to make sure that those individuals can't participate in this program. Those are the things that the department will have complete discretion through their process and in regulation and rule, and being able to set up this program in a way that they see best benefits both the mentor and, most importantly, the mentee is the individual that we're really after. But it gives the department that latitude to have that ability to address those concerns that you
Okay.
both raise.
Hold on, President Trump, I'll get right with you.
Oh, never a dull moment.
Hey, that was good.
Um,
Did he tell you to vote for my bill? Hey,
Representative Williams.
I don't know
oh,
how you
Lord.
follow up on that.
I don't
Mr.
know either,
Chairman.
but you do. There are in here. If you look at line 30, getting back to the bill, the department's going to establish a mentor education course that provides instruction to the mentors, which the completion shall be required before he or she may mentor an outdoor mentee under the program.
That's correct.
So, again, I'm reading this with parameters that this is serious business, and if you want to do this and you want to be certified, I'm sure that with everyone out there, the department, all of the conservation organizations, shooting organizations are behind this. They have an idea of what really works out there, because they're already doing this program,
That's right.
or some semblance of it. So I think what we're doing is saying, hey, this is a great idea. Let's give a little more oomph or
I would
added
completely
incentive
concur with
to,
that.
to
sentiment.
this. So,
Yes, sir.
I would agree with the senator. They're going to mentor or look at this and set it up right, so that we don't want it to be a failure. We want it to be a success. So, and just like Representative Bruce, I mean, aren't you doing the fishing? I'm not sure that would qualify, but you're doing something. You're trying to expose, your folks and youth and stuff in your area to the outdoors. I mean, this is the spirit of what I think this is doing. Now, whether that would qualify or not, I don't know. But again, I applaud you for what you're doing. Some kids would never ever even know have an opportunity to pick up a fishing pole. You may hook them for life. I hope we do. So hook them for life.
And talking about that, Mr. Chairman, I would say that this legislation completely builds on what this General Assembly's been doing the last couple of years, and this weekend is a perfect example of what we've been doing in opening up certain seasons early for youth hunts in our state to encourage that participation across our state, and I think this builds on what we have done and what we have stood for as a General Assembly, and I think it continues in that effort to encourage what we all consider as a passion. I believe all of us hold the hunting and fishing sports and as a passion in our state, and so
I thank you. And I think we have one more question, Representative LaBricchia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just listening to it, I think it's a wonderful idea, but as this sort of moves forward and the department begins to put together all of the functional things or that it does, I guess one of the things would be neat is if somehow mentees could be identified and connected with mentors that maybe they don't even know. Is that how you would perceive that to happen?
I would agree that should be the way that it should be handled, where it's not. Maybe it's not a father-son combo, and I think that gets to the issue that you raised earlier.
Brand new, totally.
Mine's already going to be, the process has
That's-
already started.
Yeah,
I'm
that's right.
sure most of everybody in here is.
And I think that again that leaves this discretion up to the department to make that determination. But we can we can definitely encourage the department to go that route to find ways to make sure that we're giving individuals different experiences and different types of game hunting across our state and different types of fishing. Because y'all know, all of you know, you go from South Georgia to North Georgia, East Georgia to West Georgia, there's different types of hunting and there's different types of fishing that our state offers according to where you are located in this state. And so
But there's
and
no
maybe
age
that's a way
limit
to
on
do
the
that.
mentee. I mean,
There is no
long
there
as they
actually is
never
no age
owned a-
limit.
I don't care if you pick up a fishing rod or a gun for the first time. I don't care if you're
Yeah.
4 years old, 40 years old, or 80 years old.
I
That
agree.
would be a great thing.
And that is and that's
yeah.
I think that's what makes this bill just as important, is because it's not a focus just on youth, even though that's what we're geared toward, but it's a focus on any individual in our state who's never had an opportunity to participate or never really wanted to, and we're going to give them that opportunity through this
I know
through
some
this
adults
legislation.
that got into it late, and they're as gung ho as probably some of us who grew up doing it. So, one question, and this is not a question to get off, but I think it would be, whether it's informal way, and I'll talk to the senator, you know, in the department. I don't want to place a burden, but it'd be neat to have a report back that says, "Hey, we've done this,"
I
and
agree.
showing a success of that. That may be something we talk about.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to derail it, but I think it's a great bill. We don't have copies for everybody, but I will call a committee meeting tomorrow.
I understand.
And we will deal with this. Maybe you and I, or if the committee's got any comments on that, I don't want to, but you know, it'd be neat to hear back from the success of this if we can, because I think the more
in
we,
everything you do, you want reporting back.
yeah, I don't know if we can, you know, just annual report back to the
two committees.
of hey, this is going on, that we've been a success. I think it'd be great to have people come in here to this committee every year and say, you know, I've done this, but you know, any
Well,
discussion from the committee on that, or I don't want to.
I'd be willing to talk with you offline about that,
Why don't
and
we do
maybe
that?
we can discuss
Yeah.
that with the department and see if there's a way that we could
Yeah.
find a way to make that
Again, in a
work.
positive light, because I think the
Oh,
more
yeah,
we
yeah, I
can get that
understand.
out there and showcase
Well,
the
I think
program, it would be a great.
I agree, because I think that brings publicity to what we're trying to do in our state.
So, gentlemen, with that, I think this is a great measure. We'll I'll call a committee meeting for tomorrow. We'll get this thing wrapped up. I will talk to Chairman Harper on this, and we'll get this bill. It's a great measure, and I think we all ought to put our full weight and resources into it. Yes, sir.
You know,
Representative Bruce.
one of the things that we're doing at the park this year that we hadn't done before, we were able to get these little pellets, peat moss pellets or whatever they call it, and you stick them in the water, and when you put it in the water, it swells up, and then you put a seed in it, and then you can watch the seed grow, and it's in some kind of little net. So, and then once the roots start coming out, you stick it in the ground and you watch it grow. And we're going to do that with the kids at the park this year, in addition to the fishing, but we're setting up a web page for them to be able to take pictures as this thing is growing and how they're interacting with it, and put it on this website so that everybody can see it. And I'm telling you all that because it sounds like this might be a suggestion that we could do with these mentors and mentees, the things that they're learning, if they can post it out there, and everybody can see and benefit from what this one learned, somebody else might be able to benefit from it somewhere else.
Well, I know
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Representative, I think you make great sense. Of course, you know, we've got to make sure that whoever is doing it, whether the adult, the mentor, and the mentee, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure the department already, maybe, I know we've really gone into the age of technology, the online website, getting news things out. That may be something the department can add to that to help further the publicity and get the thing out, as long as it's within the rules and we're looking at privacy issues and there's no problem or permissions to do that. But I would leave that for the department to take up under suggestion. Is that fair enough?
Fair with me.
All right. Awesome. Well, guys, if that's it, Senator, we'll call a committee meeting.
That's
You and I
fine,
can
Mr. Chairman.
can speak afterwards regarding
Yeah.
our other issue, and we'll get a copy out for the committee to make sure that we've got a copy in front of everyone to vote on.
Yes, sir. Look forward to it.
Thank you, Senator. I hope this part's gonna go quicker than the last couple of bills. Yes. All right. I'll talk to you after. First of all, I want to thank members and the folks who participated in the last couple of hearings regarding the issue of deer baiting. For the members and the folks in the audience and all around Georgia, for the ones that took the conversation seriously, I appreciate it. It's a serious issue because anytime we talk about hunting and fishing and we talk about protecting those rights in the future, I think it is a very serious issue. We passed out of the subcommittee yesterday the substitute that you see before you. And I think what this substitute, the Senate Bill 450, does is it addresses the concerns that have been heard regarding South Georgia being able to bait and North Georgia not being able to bait. That the folks in North Georgia wanted consistency and parity with South Georgia. This bill addresses those concerns, bringing forth code that allows uniform baiting across the state of Georgia. This bill also takes into some concerns regarding, I think, some confusing at times language between the different code sections, further clarifying the deer section and the hog section where baiting is accepted out and allowed. It makes those two sections the same. As this committee also heard, it sets forth a 50-yard buffer between property lines so that you can't bait within 50 yards of an adjoining property line unless agreed by the two property owners. So if it's not a problem and the two owners want to do it, they're more than welcome to it. However, if there's somebody that doesn't and is hunting a species that can't hunt over bait, then it also allows them to back off 50 yards, which I think is a good buffer zone that will hopefully cut out a lot of conflict. This bill also gives the DNR rangers, and it does it permissively, to allow them to make the judgment that if there is a conflict between two landowners where a baiting situation for deer or hogs jeopardizes a neighbor hunting something else that is not allowed to be hunted over bait, it allows them to go in and get that neighbor to move that bait so that both now can hunt. That's what the bill does. I stayed true. I told this committee if we'd have a discussion and try to look at some of the real issues, then I would allow a vote on the bill. And I'm holding to my word. I hope, and I'll let it be known for this committee and for those watching, I personally still do not support baiting for a whole host of reasons. A lot of the reasons that I still, even though this bill I think takes care of some of the property concerns out there, I still think we've got a great risk to Georgia that baiting poses. I'm not gonna get into it, but I still have my ethical fair chase issues. But with that being said, this is the bill that's for you. And it is an opportunity for Georgians to have one unified bill so that north and south no longer are separated by the zones in baiting. I will tell you that there are folks in our legislature, and there are certain folks down on the third floor that really don't care for this measure. But I hope that this will be able to pass this committee, and I hope that this will be able to be brought to the floor for a vote, and will once and for all, put this measure to rest. With that being said, I hope there's not much discussion, but I hope that there, at the right time, there's a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say one quick thing, and that's a big thank you to you for your willingness to allow this conversation to happen this year. And I know it's a tough conversation because it splits all of us that have so much in common, and that is our love for the sport of hunting in our state, and particularly in this case, those white-tailed deer. But I just want to thank you personally for your leadership and your willingness to work with those of us and to make this to end this conversation and make this a fair state for everybody.
Well, I appreciate that too. Chairman Shaw, who's also my cousin-in-law, as y'all may remember the story, his first year in, we did a debate on baiting. And
kissed and made up.
well,
We did that 7 years ago.
we
Hugged.
But, you know, guys, it really is. It's about a family, and, you know, everybody, oh, you're not a hunter. I've been called all kind of names. But, you know, I got a little 5-year-old boy that was with me this year when we took his, first deer with him. He went on his first quail hunt. He's been dove hunting for 3 years, picking up birds now. And he can throw his own rod and fish. We're all dedicated as sportsmen and women, and we all have a passion for this. But I hope we all share in that same passion, one unifying thought, and that's to make sure that we protect this great tradition of hunting and fishing, and that it's protected way, way into the future. And I hope that we leave here with that.
Yes.
So with that, guys, I'll entertain motion.
Do pass on this committee substitute. Senate Bill 450.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Gentlemen, I hope that what this committee has done this year, that we can leave here very proud of what we've done. This committee, again, while I personally can't support the baiting issue, I think we've made, I think, it better in light of all circumstances. We brought out discussions, but we have allowed a unified Georgia. We've passed out of this committee a DMAP program, whereby a lot of the deer hunters across this state, we can level it up a notch as far as making sure that we're giving great biological and sound wildlife advice to help our deer hunters with a better quality herd. We've looked at other ways to allow hunting, especially with the air guns. I think this committee's done a great bit of work. We've got one more bill to pass with the recruitment, the mentor bill, and we may even have one more bill in here that this committee passed 2 years ago that got stalled over in the Senate to do. But I think this committee's done great work on behalf of the sportsmen and women of this state, and I appreciate it. With that, any more comments or questions from the committee?
To say that I appreciate the discussion, and while I I may hunt over bait next year, but I don't think I will. But I don't see anything. I want everybody to understand. I don't see anything wrong with it, unethical or anything else. It's just not what I desire to do. And I'm glad we brought the state together as one. And I did understand what you were saying. I think a lot of the concerns from some people were not that strong an issue, but the treating the hunters the same was important to me. And I'm glad we got through it, and I appreciate your work on this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. With that, hopefully this is the shortest meeting we've had this year. We are adjourned.